Am I the a-hole for not including ex-wife's stepson on a trip with my son? My ex-wife and I have joint custody of our son Brandon, 12, but he spends his summers with me. For the past few years, Brandon and I spent a few weeks during the summer up at my father's old place by a lake that he left me after he passed. It's the best place for kayaking, long hikes, and bike rides. My ex got married a year ago, and her husband has 2 sons, who I'll call Todd and Jared. Todd is 14 and Jared is 10. Brandon gets along just fine with Jared. They've gotten pretty close, and I've taken Jared along with us a few times if we're celebrating something for Brandon. I'm talking birthday trips to Disneyland or going to the beach. Last summer, Jared also joined us for our summer trip to the lake. The one my son really had problems with is Todd. The kid has had behavioral issues, and when they all first moved in, Brandon complained about how much Todd would bully him for no reason. Calling him names, going into his room and breaking/stealing his stuff, and other things. I immediately confronted my ex about keeping our son away from him because of the things Brandon said he'd do to him at their house. I threatened to take her back to court to change our custody arrangement if she didn't do something about it. My ex is aware of Todd's issues, so she and her husband try to keep him in line. Todd leaves Brandon alone now, but they don't interact at all when he's over there, and my son absolutely hates him. The other day, my ex called to ask me about my summer plans with Brandon. It's already been agreed that Jared would be coming, and she asked if I'd consider taking Todd too. I said no, and I only bring Jared because my son invites him and they actually get along. Todd is the last person I'd want there. Well, my ex said Todd is jealous that they get to do something cool for the summer and feels left out. She believes this would be a great way for them to learn to get along, but I told her that's up to Brandon, and he's made it clear he wants nothing to do with Todd. Now she won't let this go, and telling me I'm being so unreasonable about this when it could be beneficial for the boys, and she feels guilty that Todd will just be at home while Jared gets to come with us. I've not changed my mind about this and being treated like a a-hole. Even after Brandon told her he doesn't want Todd with us this summer, she's still making a big deal out of it. It's hard to see how I'm being a jerk about not wanting Todd to come with us when all he's done is be a bully. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. Not the a-hole. Todd will be jealous, but he'll also learn his bad behaviors have consequences. Don't let a bully ruin your son's summer. If he starts behaving well, then maybe consider taking him for next time. Edit. By considering, I do not mean Opie should reward Todd for stopping his bad behavior or something. What I meant is that if Opie-san and Todd establish a relationship by then, and if Opie-san wants both to come then, and lastly if Opie's still okay with taking his son's step-brothers, then he might consider taking both. Also, the vibe I'm getting from the ex is that she wants a few kid-free weeks and sees Opie as a way to get a vacation from her kids for free. Otherwise, why hasn't all the time the kids spent together at the ex's house been a good opportunity to bond? Sounds like it's been the opposite. Not the a-hole. I was also gonna say, the most Opie could do here is give her a week with Brandon during the summer so she can take the 3 boys on a bonding trip. Why the hell should bonding be Opie's responsibility? Not the a-hole. Not the a-hole. If Todd is feeling left out because your son and Jared are doing something cool this summer, your ex and her husband should use that time to take Todd to do something cool. It isn't your responsibility to make Todd feel included. Your responsibility is to your son. Your son doesn't like Todd, and it's unfair to potentially ruin your annual trip because Todd is jealous. The ex probably wants to get rid of Todd for a week or 2 as well, and is looking for Opie to take the hit. Not the a-hole. If she wants the boys to have bonding experiences, she can facilitate that when they are at her house. Brandon avoids Todd when he's at his mom's, so that's why they don't try. Besides, she knows I will try to change the custody agreement if he does anything to my son again, so she mostly tries to keep them separate. The next story is titled, Am I the a-hole for calling my husband a jerk? I, female 33 and husband male 37, had a baby 5 months ago. He really wanted kids. I was on the fence. However, I am the one who does 99% of the baby stuff. Asking him to do something is like pulling teeth sometimes. He keeps making jokes like he doesn't need to do stuff. He has a wife for that. Or he can't do something. He's holding the baby. But when I have her, I'm expected to do everything. So earlier I was talking about sleep training, how if dad does the check-ins, then baby doesn't expect food. So he make a joke about how he'll just give me one of his t-shirts so he doesn't have to do anything. I lost it and said, why do you have to be such a jerk? I feel like he makes these jokes at my expense, constantly. They're kind of demeaning and hurts my feelings. But whenever I say something back, I'm so mean. Anyway, he took his things and is now sleeping on the couch. I went and said sorry for losing my cool and tried to explain how constantly making chauvinist jokes since he got home had resulted in eventually the last straw. But he is ignoring me. Am I the a-hole here? Edit. I did want a child. I was on the fence because of everything I'd have to give up, not because I didn't want kids. I did want a kid eventually. It just happened a bit sooner by a year or so than planned. Husband does help out with some housework. That is, unpacking dishwasher every morning or cleaning on weekends. And he helps with bath time with baby at night. Not the a-hole. Ask him if he would like his custody split, because if he keeps this crap up, you are leaving him. One baby is enough. You don't need him acting like a child on top of it. And for goodness sake, when you wind up leaving him, get a proper legal custody agreement. Him saying that Opie's so mean for having a problem with him blatantly disrespecting her is so childish. You're right, Steve. You have a God-given right to be insulting to your wife, and I humbly apologize for expecting to be treated like a person. Can you do me a favor quick and put that in writing for the judge? This is being purposefully passive-aggressive so he can set you up as the bully and guilt-trip you. Don't fall for it. He's definitely being a jerk. Not the a-hole. I also noticed that he removed himself and pouted on the couch, probably ditching Aunt Daddy babysitting. Not the a-hole. Why are you apologizing? He owes you an apology. I would have left him on the couch so he can think about all the hard work you put in. There is nothing funny about someone who uses jokes to belittle you and has misogynistic views. I would suggest couples therapy. It works wonders. Seriously, I'm so tired of women apologizing to men for upsetting their bad behavior. Update. I had a convo with him. He said I'm not pulling my weight because I didn't job hunt this week. I was cleaning the house instead, and once I get a job, we will divide tasks more equally. But until I go to work, I get to lay about the house and take naps. So he doesn't see why I should do more, because that's unfair as he has to go to work all day. Also still waiting for an apology. I communicated I wanted one for hurting my feelings. Now for the next story. Am I the a-hole for saying I co-parent with a nanny in front of my ex-husband and his family? My ex-husband and I have been separated for a year and will more than likely be starting the divorce process any day now. Ever since we split up, my ex has hired a nanny to help him with childcare for our 2 kids during his time. The nanny usually does pickups and drop-offs. Originally, I would try to communicate things about the kids directly to him, but I could barely get in touch with him. He always made some excuse about how work was busy, but I feel like he should at least respond to my emails about the kids quickly, and that it was his responsibility to make sure the nanny had the relevant information too. Eventually, I got fed up with having to hound him every single time he needed information about the kids. And since the nanny does almost all of the childcare when they're with their dad, I decided to just communicate with her directly. I do still update my ex too, but now I only send him one email, and it's up to him to make the effort to read/respond to it. This has worked really well for the kids. They seem to be doing a lot better during their time with their dad now, since the nanny makes the necessary adjustments for them. It was my ex-mother-in-law's birthday, and she asked me to bring the kids because my ex wasn't sure if he would be able to go. I still have a good relationship with my ex-in-laws, and I didn't want my kids to miss out on time with their family, so I agreed. My ex ended up showing up towards the end of the day. I haven't had to see my ex face-to-face in a very long time, and he has always known how to push my buttons. I was trying to be civil for him for the kids' sake, but he kept baiting me when no one else was in earshot. My mother-in-law made a comment about how she was so proud of us for being able to co-parent so well after everything. My ex had whispered a sly comment to me not 2 minutes before my mother-in-law made her comment, so I was already quite fuming. So I responded with, yes, I really enjoy co-parenting with a nanny. She's fantastic. My ex and his family weren't amused, and I received a lot of backlash from all of them. My ex accused me of calling him a deadbeat, and said he didn't want me talking to his nanny anymore because I should be communicating directly with him. Am I the a-hole? Now for the top comments. I'm sorry, but when he's not making an effort to communicate with you to coordinate around the kids and makes every excuse in the book to make himself unavailable, then you have every right to say what you said. He's offended because he didn't think you'd call him out in front of his family, and probably painted a picture that he's doing a much better job than he is doing. Not the a-hole. She's not the a-hole, but she just made her life a whole lot harder. I'm not sure I could have bit my tongue either, but being not the a-hole isn't enough when kids are involved. Yeah, much like dealing with crazy roommates posts. This is you're right, and you've had to put up with way too much BS, but you're simply in a horrible position where you need to be extremely measured and strategic in how you advocate for yourself regardless of fairness situation. The difference is, the consequences of not having superhuman self-control will rebound to her kids more than her. It's not really suited for this forum, since Opie has to consider a lot more than who's in the right. It's not fair that her ex is such a vindictive, pissy deadbeat. But that's life. Oof, that one hit your target perfectly. Not a-hole. You didn't call him an awful dad. You made a joke about how often you talk to the nanny. You also complimented him on finding a great nanny. I personally think it's a clear everyone sucks here. The ex sucks, point blank. No arguments here. He should be a present father, and he should already be the one handling the communication with Opie, not the nanny. It's ridiculous that he is only now saying he's going to step up. Opie kind of sucks for dragging the ex-in-laws into something that didn't involve them. But I'll mostly give that a pass since she said the ex was purposefully baiting her behind the scenes. Mostly though, I think Opie was the a-hole to herself. Yes, it's a crappy co-parenting situation as far as the ex goes, but Opie admitted herself that it's actually been working great for the kids. Plus, she also stated it's been less stress for her overall. This one comment has, at least temporarily, caused all of that to come crashing down. Best case scenario, the ex gets over it and everything blows over, and either goes back to the way it was, or even better. The ex steps up like he should have from the beginning, and they actually start communicating properly. Worst case scenario, the ex stays pissed/vindictive about what went down, and fires the current nanny out of pettiness since she has obviously built a good relationship with Opie, and then hires someone new that he can train to not work with Opie at all. Edited to add, I don't blame Opie at all. Knowing myself, I would have said exact same thing. I'm just worried about her and I want everything to work out. Not the a-hole, but I agree. The first thing I thought was, well, the nanny's fired. A lot of people seem to think he would have fired the nanny/said something to her, but he didn't. The only thing that has really changed is that he responds much faster now, and occasionally drops/picks up the kids himself. Last story is titled, Am I the a-hole for being honest with my ex? I, 27 female, have a child with my ex, 30 male. We were together for 5 years when I found out I was pregnant, and then the entire relationship started to go downhill. I won't go into details because they're a bit too specific for my liking. But suffice it is to say that he was manipulative, a liar, and financially, mentally, and emotionally abusive. Finally, right before the due date, I broke things off. I was already living with my mom by that point. Fast forward 7 months, and all he does is show up 3 times a week, wiggle some toys in the kid's face, and speed read him a book for 30 to 60 minutes. We started at 2 hours 3 times a week, but he just started leaving earlier and earlier. If the kid poops on his watch, he just leaves it for me to deal with, but he doesn't even tell me it happened. In the last month, he's left me 5 poopy diapers, 3 of which have resulted in diaper rash. I have no idea how long the kid was sitting in poop for each time. Other missed opportunities to help include, but are not limited to, sitting around while I was trying to feed a kid a post-med snack, and me saying, no, sorry, can't come early because that's his dinner and bath time, and he didn't offer or ask to help/do any of it for me. Last night he sent me a text at 10 p.m. wanting to talk. I asked what about, and he left me hanging for over 10 minutes. He has acknowledged in the past that he knows I hate that. Like, if you ask me to talk, be ready to talk. He knows I get stressed and anxious when he does that. When he finally responded, he kept beating around the bush, and I kept telling him to spit it out. Over an hour later, we finally reached the point of this talk, or at least I got a solid question out of him. He wanted to know if there was anything he could be doing to help with the baby. I asked if he felt he was doing the best he can. And he said yes, but asked if I felt he could be doing more. I kinda lost it on him a little. I pointed out the dirty diapers. The times he's forced me to keep the kid awake for his visits, even when the kid is sick or just working and dropping a nap. The fact that he never bothered to learn how to calm or even hold a kid, resulting in me having to purchase a $50 floor seat so he would have somewhere to sit that wasn't on his father's lap, etc. And here's where I might be the a-hole. I told him that I kinda think the kid just tolerates his presence. I've spoken to my friends and family, who have all the details of our relationship, and they all laughed and said it's all true. And if he's bothered by it, then he should have done better from the start. But obviously my ex thinks I was rude. I kind of agree, but I also feel it was justified. So Reddit, am I the a-hole? Not the a-hole. Your ex is a lazy excuse for a parent and needs to step up. Edit, just read your other comments. Your ex is not just lazy, he's downright toxic. Stop worrying that you're in the wrong. You have a kid with a mistreating deadbeat. I did say in the post that he was abusive. Lol. Not the a-hole. He asked for your opinion and he got it. Due to his manipulative past, I also wouldn't be surprised if he got offended and or thought you were rude no matter what you said. I won't dispute that. But his style is more telling lies and omitting details to get what he wants. Then when it blows up in his face, as our relationship did, he acts like he has no idea what you're talking about, and you're an a-hole for rescinding whatever thing you promised based on his lies. Not the a-hole. With the way you write, the ex seems to be, probably to the kid who is too young, just a random visitor. I'm assuming there is no custody agreement? None yet, but there hasn't been a real need for one yet. I'm waiting on a birth certificate, which he isn't listed on because it didn't sign. To get a passport though, just for regular travel when we're able. My sister lives in another country, so if there happens to be an emergency, it's good to have at our disposal. So I'm probably going to attempt to get sole custody, formally, tomorrow night. I've heard they're starting to employ the just because the father isn't listed doesn't mean there isn't one idea, so I want to avoid trouble.